Welcome to the Craftsman Online Podcast, the only 5-star rated Masonic podcast endorsed by the Grand Lodge of New York. The comments, opinions, and views shared during this program are those of individual Freemasons and do not reflect the official position of a Grand Lodge, concordant body, a pendant body, or Masonic authority. I'm your host, Brother Michael Arce, co-founder of CraftsmanOnline.com. A quick reminder that you can now listen early and ad-free with our new subscriber offer. Get the link to start your 7-day free trial in the show notes for this episode. You've joined us for an episode on The White House Plumbers, the HBO hit limited series that is out this summer, as we welcome back one of our favorite guests, the traveling man, Right Worshipful Anthony Prizzia. Welcome back, Brother Prizzia.
Oh, hello, brother. Always a pleasure to be on your show.
Well, I feel like with this episode, I wanted to do my best John Lovitz impersonation, the actor, Brother Anthony, as we're going to get into his role and how you can see him, as we mentioned in the HBO-limited miniseries, The White House Plumbers. And for those that don't follow Brother Prizzia on Instagram, you're missing out. I always joke with you, Anthony, that I want to live your best life because the photos of your travels are really just amazing. This story that we have tonight doesn't involve travel to exotic areas, unless you count visiting Albany. But how did you first hear of the opportunity to be a part of this HBO show?
It was so funny. When the world ended, that's how I refer to the pandemic as the world ending. I answered an ad on Facebook that I thought was really just a scam to get my email. And I answered it and nothing happened. They just said they're looking for drivers to be in background series. They didn't say what it was for, and they said they needed classic cars. So I do possess a 1966 Lincoln Continental convertible with the suicide doors and the red leather interior, the giant 462 4-barrel. It's never seen snow, so it's a beautiful car. And it actually is the same car that Lyndon B. Johnson drove in his motorcade, the exact same color, exact same make, and same model. So they love the cars. And I waited months and nothing. So I really thought it was just a scam. And I'm like, oh, well, I gave my email to somebody. Oh, well. And then this woman, Sam, calls me and she goes, hey, we need a few more pictures of your car. We love it. And don't take this the wrong way, but can you grow hair? Because I do shave my hair short since I've been older. I feel like I look a little younger when I shave it short.
Me too. It's the Bruce Willis look.
She goes, stop cutting your hair immediately. Don't shave. We will do all that on set. So I stopped cutting my hair, and months go by again. And again, I still think I'm being punked. And I get a call, and they're like, all right, we're ready for you. And they give me an address to show up and for wardrobe. And you have to go, and it's this like old bag making company on the waterfront in Newburgh, New York. And there's no one around. And I still am like, what? Am I on a reality show? Is this something I'm being taped? Because I'm in a corridor. It looks like I'm going to be about to be murdered in. And there's no lights on. And I'm walking down this corridor where there's no one. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, I'm definitely getting murdered here. Like, this was a complete scam. I'm going to be abducted, sold into, like, I'm going to wake up with no kidneys or whatever. And I get to this top of this flight of stairs, and lo and behold, there's all these people bustling around doing this crazy wardrobe from 1970. And that's how I started. My first introduction was being scared to death, walking down a hallway, not knowing where I was going, but still just doing it because I really wanted to get my car on screen. It was really what it started out as.
Right. So most of us that are not the Hollywood elite like yourself now, the cool thing about when they're doing these shootings or filming is that the project tends to have a different name than what the actual title of the show will be. Do you remember when you found out what the theme of the show would be with the White House Plumbers and that whole story?
So the funny part was I didn't know enough about it until I got into it. And then when you go on for your first day, that's when you find out what the name of it is. So that part they don't keep secret because it's on your pay stub. It goes right on your app, when you're saying you're available for hours. But it was very labor intensive. I mean, we were on set some days. I would show up, I'd work my day job, and then I would go to set by like 5:30, 6 o'clock, and I wouldn't leave until 5:30, 6 in the morning. I'd go home and sleep for like 2 hours and then go right back to work and then go back to set again. So it
Mm.
was a pretty cool experience. But yeah, like we knew it was the White House Plumbers. We knew what it was about. And as we were there, I'm like Googling, like, all right, did this really happen? Like, what is this? And even then, they shot so much where they didn't even use half of the footage. So we shot all day, all night in Albany for 2 overnights, and they used none of it.
Hmm.
And you're talking hundreds of people being on set for 3 minutes of shoot, and they didn't use any of it. It was, I mean, the amount of money that goes into making movies is astounding. I'll never complain about paying $15 for a movie ticket ever again in my lifetime because I understand why they cost so much now.
Well, let's talk about the theme of this because according to Rotten Tomatoes, White House Plumbers is not deadly serious. How much did you know about the Watergate break-in scandal before you walked on set?
So I was familiar with the concept of Watergate. I knew what happened generally. I knew that what they did when they all got caught, and I knew that the cover up is what was really what drove most people down. Like, everything that dragged them down was the cover up afterwards. But I didn't know about a lot of the murders. I didn't know a lot about the plane downings and the briberies. That was pretty interesting to watch all that. But the show itself is hysterical at times because it leads off, and I don't want to do too many spoilers because I want people to watch the show. But the very beginning, it says, we have not changed a single name in this story because it's all true and every single person was guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love that. Like, it's so cool to be part of something that's that funny right from the minute the show starts. And Woody Harrelson and Justin Theroux and Lena Headey and Judy Greer, they were so amazing to work with and just be around, and watching them create this artwork.
Mm.
And they used comedy in a way that they made it, again, it was so outrageous what they did. It was so outlandish, and they just leaned into it in the series. So I loved the way it came out. I wish I could have made a few more scenes, but I did make a lot, and it was a lot of fun. There is one scene it's the country club scene at night where there's this big explosion of a fight, and you can see me really clear in it, and it's so fun to see my facial expressions and my fake sideburns and my fake mustache and my ridiculously long gray hair. And the costumes were, I wanted to keep all the costumes because they were so cool. They were so 70s.
Well, you got to keep the car. That's a plus.
But yeah, you got to keep what you brought in with you, but that was it.
So I want to get onto that too, because we were talking, this was post-pandemic. I knew HBO likes to use Troy, New York for a lot of its period pieces when they're shooting like New York City back in like the 1800s. I was living in Troy at the time, and you're like, hey, I'm in Albany filming this series that HBO is going to have on the White House Plumbers. I'm like, the who? And you're like, the Watergate scandal, the break-in. I was like, oh, and then you said, yeah, Woody Harrelson. And then a few weeks later, it started to get reported in the news that, the production crew was in town. And it was the first, keep this inviolate in your breast as I'm giving you into mine. It was like, they're like, you can't tell anybody this. And let me send you a cool picture of me in the car and I'm on set. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is so awesome. How difficult was it for you to keep this experience a secret until the series was released?
Yeah, you had to. The production company will monitor you. They'll watch you. If I posted anything prior to the final cut, or if I posted anything negative, I would be done. They would never hire me again. So the production company really does pay attention. They keep notes of who shows up early. If you complained when you were on set about anything, you weren't asked back. And I think that's the reason why I got my daughter on so quickly, and I got into SAG. So I asked them, I said, I really love to do this moving forward. I want to be part of the union. And within 3 months, I was a card-carrying member of the Screen Actors Guild, and I get to have all the perks and benefits of being in the union. And I love it, and I want to get my daughter in. So
nice. Yeah. And I'm glad you helped out, because for those of us not on the inside, we're like, SAG, what does that mean? But yeah, it's a very important part of the Hollywood and movie and entertainment making industry. I want to go back to you being on set and a little bit of that experience, because I was looking forward to this film coming out. I think most Masons have an interest in history or American history, and maybe not specifically this era, but just knowing that I would get to see your car, and then you're like, yeah, and I get to be an extra in some of these shots. I'm like, oh, I can't wait for this to come out. And I was watching all the trailers and the teasers, and I would like text you and be like, hey, dude, I just saw on HBO. It's coming out, in spring of 2023. And it seems so far away, but I can't wait. And then when it was finally released, I was tuning in every week to look for you. And you showed up very early in the series.
I got very lucky. And, it was I think it was the first or second day I was on set, or night, actually. And a lot of the people that were driving the cars or the background actors, they would just keep to themselves, and they would just sit and do nothing, and they would just, have a chair, and they'd be all by themselves. I wanted to meet everyone. I wanted to learn everything. I wanted to experience it. And I was like a kid in a candy store, and everywhere I went, I was just paying attention. I made sure that I just stayed out of the way. You never talk to the principal actors ever, unless they talk to you first. And I started to learn the rules, and I kept hearing someone say, Anthony, I need this, or Anthony. And I'm looking around. I'm like, is there another Anthony here? I'm like, they're not talking to me. And lo and behold, one of the other guys that was on, he was part of production set. So he was in charge of making sure the lights were up. If there was a stunt that was happening, he would have the cranes moved. And this gentleman, Anthony, looked at me, and I looked at him. He saw my ring, and he goes, are you a Mason? And I'm like, yeah, I'm Adonai Lodge 718. And he told me his lodge, and right now I do forget it. I apologize. But he shook my hand, and he goes, all right, I got you. What else do you want to know? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to learn? Who do you want to meet? And he told me, who I needed to really be close with, where I needed to go. And it was unbelievably helpful. And I always say, we're like Cheerios and milk. Every single time I'm anywhere and there's a Mason in earshot, we pretty much come together, say a quick hello, and it always is an amazing experience. And I gave him my cards. If you're ever up by me and you need anything, let me know. And he introduced me to a few people. And the next thing I know, I'm in the nice spot. So the shot. So,
it's episode 1. It's the country club scene, which they filmed that in upstate.
Episode 2.
Episode 2. Sorry. Yeah.
Episode 1, just the car was in. Episode 2, I was in.
Right. And as the story progresses, Woody Harrelson's character, Hunt, is becoming friendly, and their families are trying to intertwine with Justin Theroux's character, which he plays the eccentric G. Gordon Liddy to perfection. And they're at the country club. It was the Wallkill Country Club, right?
Well, so, supposedly it was this is all taking place down by DC in Virginia, because all of our license plates they would put on our car each night were a Virginia or a Delaware plate. And one night I actually drove home with it by accident. Surprised I didn't get arrested. But the country club we actually were at was in New Rochelle.
Okay.
And we were there for multiple nights. It was 3 nights of overnights. And it was grueling because we shot over and over and over again. But yeah, it was that was that scene.
Yeah, and if you're watching, Anthony is the more distinguished gentleman who has they put the fake sideburns on you and a mustache, and you're talking with a woman literally over the shoulder of a very critical part scene in that particular episode between Harrelson and Theroux, and I'm like, Anthony couldn't get any closer unless he was in the conversation with them.
Yeah, it was awesome. That scene, and then the very end in the jail scene where I'm actually putting food on Justin Theroux's plate, where the two are my face is there. And actually, when you see me, the first way it starts off with that country club scene is I'm outside smoking a cigarette with another guy, and we have to walk in after the girls walk in. So Lena Headey and Judy Greer walk in, and then we walk in right after them. We shot that scene probably 65 times or more. It was ridiculous how many times we did it. So where I had to get to my mark, every time we had to redo it, I would come back to my mark. I would hold the door for Lena and Judy so they could get in their mark, and then I would walk around them and then get in my mark. So like probably the 30th time, the two of them, and they're stunning, just stunning. And I had to stop myself from staring just because they just ooze gorgeousness. And Lena looks at me and goes, "Are you our official doorman?" And I just said, "I'm your official everman. There's nothing in the world that the two of you could ask, and the answer would be no." And the two of them just burst out laughing, and they're like, "Oh my god, that's the cutest thing I've ever heard." And they like said hello, and they talked for a few minutes, and then that was it. They went back to work. I got my mark. We shot it 30 more times.
The one question I had is, knowing you always have your Masonic ring on, as you explained, like that's how one of the grips identified you. Were you allowed to wear your Masonic ring on set?
Yeah, funny you mentioned it. So for most things, for almost all of it, I was allowed to wear my Masonic ring because it was period. But I had something else on, like either glasses or I might have had like a Fitbit, and I
Mm,
had to take all that off. So like there was certain things you had to always make sure you weren't like screwing up the timeline. You weren't putting something in that wasn't supposed to be there. And
yeah.
they were very diligent about it. I mean, right down to sneakers and shoes. Even if you weren't in the scene at all, you were head to toe, period.
Hmm.
So I was allowed to keep the ring on quite a bit.
Yeah, I was extremely impressed, having lived in both areas, ironically, while they were producing this show, starting in Albany. And as you mentioned, they used the Albany State Capital area because it can be quickly morphed to look like Washington, D.C. at that
Yeah.
time. So as I was watching, I'm like, okay, now I'm familiar living in the D.C. area of what it looked like. And I'm like, it must have cost a small fortune to close these streets, bring these cars in, put up public telephones for certain scenes that they needed them. They don't
Yeah.
exist anymore.
Yeah. No, I mean, they would put cameras in places you wouldn't even know where they were. And then you'd see a guy, then one of the so the production assistants, the PAs are the ones you really want to. I always made sure I gave them a bottle of whiskey, gave some, I hooked them up with some wine. I always made sure I tipped the PAs because those guys are the ones who always would set you up where the right scenes were.
Mm.
And they're the ones who said, all right, we want Ava to come and be at the airport scene. She's in a very blurry spot, but when they're moving Kathleen Turner from her house through the airport to the rehab center, um, Ava's right in the background, and you see her. If you go slow enough, you can see her. But um, she was. I mean, that if it wasn't for them being really nice to me and taking care of me, it, like Ava would never have been on set. So like it was really really impressive. It was so much fun. But yeah, the money they spent was unbelievable.
I
How
imagine.
much money?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm
Yeah, it was.
sure this is a question you get a lot, and feel free to go where you want with this one. But I'm sure people said, hey, Anthony, we're that close to Woody. We're that close to Justin. Do you have any cool stories of interactions with them?
The coolest thing with Justin Thoreau was, and Woody the car was the coolest thing with what he did because like he's very busy. Um, but Woody Harrelson, the one funny part with him also was it was his birthday on set when we were at the country club scene, and when his wife came in, his kids came in, we had birthday party, we had birthday cake with Woody Harrelson on set. But the one night it was really it was morning. It was the sun was coming up and we were losing the light and we knew we were gonna have to come back for another day. And we just did 3 days in a row and we had to get this right. And Woody Harrelson finally, and he was the one who was messing the lineup. It was it's a really hard name he had to keep saying, and he kept messing the name up. So finally, Woody Harrelson gets up on the table and he goes, "Hey, everybody, we only have one shot at this. So get your S together because you've been screwing this stuff up all night long, and we're gonna have to get it right now." And the whole room starts laughing because we're all crispy and we're tired. But he made it fun to just do that one more take and do it because he knew he was the one who was keeping us there longer. And then my only interaction with Justin Thoreau, which was amazing, was the last episode in the jail scene. I have to put food and I'm scraping on his plate as he's turning around to engage with this like pseudo riot kind of in the jail scene. But as I'm putting the food on his plate, each time you would come in, he did something a little different. So I had to react a little bit to what he was doing. And finally, the director comes up to me and he goes, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know." He's doing something different each time. He goes, "But do what I'm telling you, not what he's telling you to do." I'm like, "Well, I just thought he was the star, so I just did what he did." He goes, "No." He goes, just do what I'm telling you. It'll come out fine. I'm like, okay, cool. So I just started doing it. I'm like, now I'm all nervous. I'm like, oh, I'm blacklisted for life. They're never going to have me back. And I'm all paranoid, but I'm putting the food on his plate. I do the whole scene. And now they make you as the background actors until they do this thing called checking the gate. And that means they're going to review it and they think they got it and that's going to be done. And you get to go home that night. So we're in the other room and I hear them checking the gate and I know, all right, we're going to be let go soon, but you can't leave in case they want to shoot it one more time. And Justin starts walking over to me and I'm like, oh no. And he goes, hey, I go, yes, sir. He's like, awesome work tonight. I'm like, are you kidding? I thought I was completely screwing up. He goes, no. He goes, that scene's awesome. It's going to be in the movie. And you did a great job. And just keep doing what you're doing. I really appreciate your hard work. And I'm like, oh my God, again, is this really happening? Like, I'm like, I don't smell almonds. I don't think I'm having a stroke. I really feel like this is real. And for him to take the time to do that with me meant the world to me. And it was something he didn't have to do. And that was really, really nice of him.
Yeah, I was really familiar with Woody Harrelson. I mean, who isn't, from going all the way back being Woody on Cheers. Justin Theroux, not so much, but after watching White House Plumbers, which we should say is streaming now on Max, the HBO product, and we highly encourage it. It's a great miniseries. I started watching some of the other things that he's been a part of, like the Mosquito Coast on Apple. I was like, wow, this guy is deeply talented.
So talented. And it was really fun. It was really cool meeting all of them and just being part of something that's that iconic and will be around forever. And it was really just, I'm blessed to be part of it. And again, it's such an experience of a lifetime. And then again, being able to tell, like, my daughter was with me. And then I got my car in that show. And it's just a really, really uh, amazing experience. I'm glad I took the time to do it. And I've done a few things since. I was in a Stephen King movie called Mr. Harrington's Phone, and that took place in Maine. Well, so it said Maine, but we shot it in Connecticut. And in the very first scene, I drive my little Audi TT, and I park as soon as they're doing like this monologue. And then after that, in the middle of the movie, the main actor is on a bus, this kid, and he's all freaked out because it's a Stephen King movie. He's freaking out and he's getting ready to run across this busy street and he almost gets hit by a car, and the car that almost hits him is me. I'm driving that car. And the stunt director comes over and goes, all right, you can drive, right? I'm like, yeah, I can drive. He goes, all right, because this is the main actor, you gotta almost hit him, but don't hit him because it'll be really bad if you hit the star of the show. I'm like, no, I got this. So that little Audi TT that almost hits the main actor in Mr. Harrington's Phone, that was me as well. And then I've been in a few other things after that too.
I can only imagine the Variety headline if it had gone south. And that one's on Netflix. That's the series.
Yeah, that one's on Netflix. It was like a movie, and it's a really easy watch, but it was pretty interesting little storyline and cool little twisty Stephen King type of movie.
So White House Plumbers, the shooting wraps, and then you understand now like the long delay that comes with like post production, and then they had to wait because there was, I guess, another group that had a similar series or period piece that was coming out, so it kept getting delayed. And in that time, you had mentioned you got to get your SAG card. Tell us how cool that is, especially when it came. You have a vote now for what is it, the Academy Awards or the Oscars?
Yeah, well, no, it's actually the Screen Actors Guild Awards, the SAG Awards. You get like the screeners, and you get vouchers to watch them either on streaming services, or you can go to the movie and actually like go to the theater and you hand them a little voucher and you get to go for free. And you sit there and you watch the movie, and then you get to vote on it later. And I take it very seriously. I do an entire Excel sheet and I rate them, and I make sure that I take my responsibility very diligently. And actually, I just took place in a very important thing with the union is we just voted to strike if they allow AI to create movies. And we're right now the writers union we're in solidarity there with them, and we probably will go on strike soon if they don't come to a resolution, because we don't want AI replacing me as a background actor, because AI could just say, all right, we'll just make this happen, and then they just do it. Or we don't want AI writing our scripts and our movies for us. So we want the people to be involved in it. And I also feel like it was an honor to be able to be part of that vote and be part of this historic interaction with technology interfering with livelihoods and the true art of making movies.
Well, as we talk about the future of film and entertainment and also the future of the starring Prizzias on screen, let's talk about your daughter, Ava. You had mentioned like this for any kid has got to be a dream come true, getting to be in a Hollywood piece. Is this something that she's expressed like, hey, Dad, I want to be a movie star now?
It was funny because when she was like, I think one of her first kindergarten or first grade, like, so what do you want to be when you grow up? She wants to be an actor. And she loves being on the stage. And the best part was getting her on set. And it was so funny. I get her on set when we're in makeup and I'm introducing her to all my friends now because I've worked with them for months now with them. And she goes into her wardrobe, gets her little outfit on, goes into hair, gets her hair done. And then she's got to go to makeup. And the woman who was in charge of makeup that day was in charge of all of the entire wardrobe area. And she and I became friends over time. And my daughter sits down in her chair and she looks at her and she goes, honey, I think you're perfect just the way you are. And Ava looks at her without missing a beat and goes, well, I feel like I could use just a little makeup. and the woman looks at me, burst out laughing, and she goes, oh, that's your daughter. and she goes, okay, you know what? She goes, Ava? She goes, there's no one on set that's allowed to overrule me in this room. However, in this one instance, I will agree with you. I feel like you could use a little bit of blush and a little bit of lip gloss. And she proceeded to do it, so kind and so sweet. And it really made Ava's day. And, so like stories like that and being part of it, I hope, and my goal was if I could give her the opportunity where she goes away to school or she's in high school and she wants to earn a couple bucks and they're filming a movie relatively close. She can just go on her app. She can say I'm available, and if they like and she fits the look they're looking for, she can work a couple days and get some extra money. And this might be something that that maybe it's just background, or maybe it turns into something else. But at least I'm getting her foot in the door, and if I can get her into the union, then at least I know she'll always have the ability to have health insurance for life, which is really what I really wanted to try to do.
Dad of the Year here, our guest on the Craftsman Online podcast. We used to call him the Traveling Man. I think now we're going to call him the Whatever You Want guy. Right, worshipful Anthony Prizzia, thanks again for coming on, brother.
Thank you for having me. I'm always happy to share some stories, and hopefully I'll make some more memories for you, and I'll share them soon with you too.
Oh, you can read all of his stories and adventures on our website at craftsmanonline.com, and the blog, just click on The Traveling Man. And a reminder that you can listen to future episodes of our podcast early and ad-free with our subscriber offer. The link for that, you can start your 7-day free trial in the show notes as well of this episode. Until next time, let peace and harmony prevail.